Our final segment concerns an unexpected and largely effective source of demands for changes in policing. On September 14th, the Washington Post published another story in their continuing coverage of policing in America. The story? Insurers force change on police departments long resistant to it. Apparently, many sheriff and police departments serving small and mid-sized communities organize into regional risk pools. Some mid-sized departments obtain insurance directly, as do some large departments. The largest departments often either self-insure by establishing a special fund for settlements or by paying settlements directly out of city or county funds. The largest departments, therefore, are not vulnerable to insurance provider requirements. For jurisdictions requiring insurance services, insurers have started to demand that police departments change their policies on chokeholds, screen cadets differently to bounce rogue candidates early, train officers in de-escalation techniques, require body cameras be worn and turned on, stop high-speed pursuits in the case of minor infractions, and more. Sometimes insurers make these demands of departments they already cover and refuse to renew the coverage otherwise. Sometimes insurance companies refuse to even begin providing coverage unless the changes are made. Departments that can secure insurance without reforming still face steeply rising insurance rates and deductibles. Relatedly, departments that are part of regional risk pools face pressure to reform from nearby jurisdictions because one member's poor behavior raises rates for everyone in the pool. Some departments have resisted this pressure and been dumped from the pool by their neighboring jurisdictions. For example, in 2009, when the 60-officer Maywood, California Police Department refused insurer requests to adopt more than a dozen changes to reduce violent encounters with the public, the risk pool ended its coverage. The department disbanded. While those fighting to reform police departments welcome insurers joining the effort, the effectiveness of insurance companies is bittersweet. Seeing the insurers make a difference, after fighting for years to get the police of his St. Anne community to reform with little success, John Charnoff noted that he was dismayed that it took money, instead of injuries caused by reckless car chases, to make change. He said, quote, "It's an indictment on St. Anne police and their priorities that the voice of their insurers spoke louder than human lives." Sociologically speaking, when it comes to social change, some injustices require the deployment of financial leverage in order to make change, and some injustices do not. Some injustices occur because there are people who just do not know the impact of their actions. For example, people may not realize that a particular way of raising children harms girls, and if that's the case, informing them of that reality enables them to try to stop raising their children in that way. There's no clear role for financial leverage in this social change story. Instead, the key mechanism for social change is the spread of information broadly. In contrast, sometimes the people with the power to change know a practice is unjust, but they still refuse to make changes. In such cases, leveraging financial consequences can make the decisive difference. And in such cases, the financial tool is often sitting there in the toolbox. Yet one reason it may be overlooked is that often the means to wield it may have been unilaterally dismantled. For example, the article states, quote, "Where community activists, use of force victims, and city officials have failed to persuade police departments to change dangerous and sometimes deadly policing practices, insurers are successfully dictating changes to tactics and policies." That's the problem right there. The city officials failed to persuade. Activists and use of force victims do not have the hammer of budget authority. Ultimately, all activists can do is make the case to decision makers and to the wider public. In contrast, many city officials do have budget authority, and thus, formally, they have more tools than just simple persuasion. Most city officials have long had the ability to link police funding to police conduct. City officials could have said, "Here's your baseline funding to maintain service day to day. You want budget for overtime, new cars, conference attendance for the leadership, other perks consistent with the job? That depends on if you enact these reforms." Instead, city officials accepted the decoupling of police conduct and consequences. Having accepted that condition, it's no wonder that efforts at mere persuasion are ineffective. Of course, insurers are not entering this space purely out of the goodness of their hearts either. They are entering because there is little money to be made if the premiums are dwarfed by the payouts. And over the last decade or so, there's been a rise in jury skepticism toward police officer claims, which translates into a greater risk of police losing cases and a greater risk of high jury awards. This change is also leading jurisdictions to seek to settle cases and to settle them quickly to avoid the cost of litigation. Of course, insurers are not entering this space unaware of these dynamics. These changes are leading jurisdictions to behave differently, and insurance companies are trying to aid and speed up their move to a different model. Now, some law enforcement officials have claimed that these changes would endanger the public. Overall, public safety does not appear to have been compromised. Thus, both insurer support for the changes and evidence of continuing police effectiveness suggests that the changes activists demanded are not damaging. Of course, partly, public safety has been sustained because some of the practices are wholly unnecessary. Obviously, escalating conflict is not helpful. But even pursuing a suspect in a high-speed chase is no longer necessary, as technology now allows police officers to shoot a sticky dart out of the front of the police cruiser, which attaches to the suspect's car. Multiple officers can then use GPS to track the car from afar and pull up after the suspect parks. As one officer in the article said, quote, "You should see the look on their face when we pull up. They think they've outrun us." Policing will always have an element of danger, but some practices inherently impose unnecessary or even counterproductive dangers on bystanders, suspects, or both. With technology making some practices obsolete, better understanding of de-escalation techniques and their value, and greater ability to proactively weed out potentially poor job candidates, one wonders, why do some police departments wait until the hammer of financial liability is raised before reluctantly reforming? What is it about those jurisdictions and/or the task of policing that maintains a commitment to driving fast and roughing up people, even as the case for the necessity of those methods crumbles away? That's This Week in Sociological Perspective. We'll be back next week with another interview with an author of some important sociological research and more sociological insights on an issue in the news. Till then, take care. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have 3 brief requests to make and 1 offer to extend. My requests: if you find the show or episode interesting, please like, subscribe, and comment. This is a good way to support the channel. My offer: if you want to receive no more than 1 email a week with a link to the new TWiSP episode, click the link in the description and then enter your email address. By doing this, you are sure you will be notified no more than once a week about new TWiSP episodes. Thanks. I appreciate it.